This is the differential rebuild for the 2004 Mercedes C230 w203 1.8 engine. I just discovered something really cool. I don't even think anyone has done this before. I've never seen it on the video. So this, I showed you this in the other videos. It's a bearing puller. I was going to send these back because this part here was up. See, it's got a lip on it coming up, almost like somebody used it and smashed it, but I don't think so. I think that's how it's made, like junk, right? So anyway, I thought, you know what, I'm going to keep this because it does work, and I'll just flatten that out with the grinder. So a lot of people have that 5 or 10 ton bottle jack press, right? I thought, hey, that would be great. How am I going to get this bearing in on the pinion? But check this out. You can actually make one out of that kit. The way I discovered it is, it was together, sort of like this, from my last project I did on this differential. And it was just sitting here. So I turned around and I said, that looks familiar. It looks like some kind of tool that I saw. Then I thought of the bearing press, with the bottle jack, or whatever you want to call it, the hydraulic jack. So I thought, hey, I wonder if I could use that some way. So this is what I did. I used this big one, I put it here, and I put that same piece, that 9.5 millimeter piece of steel, down at the bottom. You may not need it that thick, but probably it's better if it's thick. This way these parts stay more flat. They don't, curve in like that as you're putting the pressure on it. So that's what I did. I left the space about that. I kept the bearing and the pinion gear close to the side. This one is not touching yet, but I may loosen this and I may let this out a little more, so I make sure it doesn't hit, because I don't know, the force. I doubt if it's going to ruin it. It's already going down, the bearing, and all I used was this, and I held it with my hand. That's it. I didn't even put it in the vise or nothing. So anyway, that's what I did. I did put a piece of cardboard here, very thick piece of cardboard. It's a very tough piece of cardboard, not regular cardboard, but you could probably use regular cardboard. Piece of rubber, even a piece of plastic if you want, but the cardboard helps it not to slip too. So I used the race. No, I'm sorry. Not the race. This is the inner part of the bearing. That I had to break off this cage from it. So this is the inner part, and I'm using it to push the middle of the bearing down, so I don't hit this bearing. These are bearings here. And then all I use is a piece of PVC pipe. This is the regular thickness one. It's not the real thick one, and it's not the real thin one. Now I did want to cover this with tape, maybe like a box tape, the clear tape you use to tape the boxes. I was going to go around, and I was going to put at least 3 layers on each, whatever, like 3 layers here, 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 all the way up, and 3 layers of tape, because I thought if it shatters, it could, could hurt you or something. But since I didn't have to use the impact gun, and this bearing is going down pretty easy, not really easy, but with very little force, I didn't put the tape. And I have no idea how thick this is, how wide this is, but let's see if we can get the caliper in there. Okay, so I could tell you that the outside is 48.3 something. I don't know. Is that inches? I can't see. Oh no, that's millimeters. 48.3 is the outside. But in inches, 1.90. So it's almost 2-inch OD. So the inside is probably 1.5. So if they have 1.5, that's probably it. Bring your caliper. You can get a small piece of this, about 3 feet, for about $6. Maybe you have it lying around. If you don't have this, you can also use a square tube. You know, instead of a round pipe. If you have a square tube or pipe laying around, you could use that. But you have to put something on the top, of course. And I happen to have this old brake pad. I always save the old brake pads. Uh, I usually save them because maybe if I build something, like sometimes I build a go-kart and I put four brakes on it because it's, you know, it's very powerful, so it has to stop, pretty good. It has big wheels on it and everything. So I use these, and what I do is, of course, I'll just cut this off, and then I'll cut them in half. So I'll use a half of the brake pad for one wheel, the other half for the other wheel. And yeah, they stop really good and last forever. So that's why I always keep the brake pads. I tell my friends, if you change your brake pads, let me know. Let me have them. And they usually give me the brake pads and the calipers and rotors and stuff like that. And you can use them for the go-kart or anything you build. So anyway, this thing is really cool. I'm glad I kept this because this is making my job so easy. I didn't have to pound that bearing in. And all I'm doing is holding this like this, and I'm turning this top with the wrench, and it's going in no problem. See, it's already in halfway. And this one didn't have a shim underneath it. But like I said, be very careful when you take differential apart, because there could be a shim stuck to the bearing or something like that. So make sure you scrape it with your finger, move it with your finger, and make sure there's no spacer in there, or shim, whatever you want to call it. Because there is one in this tranny, and I explained, not tranny, oh my god, I keep calling this a transmission, the differential. So there is one, and it's not this one here, but it's the one on the other side of that. It's the race for this one. Alright, so they build this one towards the bigger gear for some reason, I guess because of alignment. So hopefully these bearings are going to work. This kit that I got, I paid $214 for the bearing kit, and it came with 3 seals. So it's basically the whole kit, and let me tell you, $200 to $300 is worth it. If you could rebuild this and it runs smooth again, you're lucky. You'll probably get about 200,000 miles out of it if they're good bearings, like NTN or made in Japan bearings, as long as they're not fake. Be careful. A lot of people are selling Chinese crappy bearings, and they're trying to put other names on them, like NTN and Japan and stuff like that. But I'm not stupid. What I did was, I take the bearing and I hold the ball bearing. That's just the new bearing. I either jam something in one of the bearings, very gentle. I don't break anything, but I find a way to hold it. Okay, and I take a hacksaw with a new blade on it, a metal cutting blade with fine teeth, and I let the weight of the blade go across, once that way, once that way, and then I look at it. Now, if there's a tiny little scrape there, it looks like you could buff it out with a scouring pad, that's fine. I know it's a good bearing. Sometimes you can't get any mark at all. It just rides on the top. It's like the hacksaw doesn't even have teeth on it. All right. So the ones, that make a mark in here and you could feel it with your nail, I send them right back. I pack them up so quick, the people that sold it to me don't even know what's going on. They think, oh, you just got it, why are you sending it back? But I do not put crappy stuff. When you go through trouble like this, you don't want to use a Chinese bearing in here. No offense to you Chinese people, but sometimes you try to trick us and you try to engrave the bearings and other items with the original name, and it's really not. So everything everything's got to be tested. You can't just assume that they really are good quality bearings. So anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. So this kit is really cool. I mean, look at this. Look at this. I mean, this is really cool. And I even have 2 more pieces there, so I can make it even bigger. If the shaft was bigger, I could even make it bigger than that. And so far this is working out perfect. And even though I measured the bearings before I put them in, you can't always tell, because when you put the race to the bearing, you can't really tell 100%, the measurement, if it's the same exact as your old one. All right? I mean, you can measure anything you want. You can measure the race separately, but the bearings are not exactly the same. The new bearings, this one has more bearings on it, but they're slightly smaller. And the same thing with the ring gear. They have more bearings on them. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea. To me, I don't like that. I think the bigger the better, because it rides on the top of the inner part, better. I don't like small bearings, but I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Maybe it does something for the noise too, good or bad. I don't know. So anyway, I'm getting there. I don't have a long time to work on this. I only could work on it like an hour a day, because I do have other things to do. So I think that's about it. Yeah, well, I cut this PVC pipe. Try to cut it as even as possible. Try not to make it on the slant. It's not easy, but if you do, take your Makita grinder and try to get the high spot off of there on both sides. It'll be better for you. All right. So when you first start this, do it by hand. Really tighten it. Then turn this all around. This side, that side. Make sure that bearing is still straight while it's going down, because right now when I take the wrench and I'm making that bearing go down, I could hear it creaking. Okay, so I know it's going down pretty good. Alright, that's about it. Just wanted to show you that. This tool is very useful. I'm very happy that I kept it. Alright, I'll see you in the next video.